it's Maxine, your spiritual astrologer, and welcome back to the podcast where you'll learn how to use astrology in a more empowering and soul-centered way. And in today's episode, you are learning all about the major transits you need to know in November, the astrology of November 2023. So I want you to think of this almost as your astrology weather report for the month ahead, because astrology, when I'm talking about transits, those are the transiting or moving planets in the cosmos and how they are shifting this month. How that affects us, how that mirrors what's going on really within us this month. And so because astrology is this language of energy and we are energetic, spiritual beings, it really helps you to know this going into the month, to flow with that energy, to flow with the current rather than fighting upstream. So in this episode, you will learn the key dates to mark on your calendar, which major transits do you need to look out for, and how can you work with them? How can you go into the month with intention, find out how this energy is supporting you, and also where you're being challenged. So really what to bring more awareness and mindfulness to. So I will get into those key dates for the transits and then we'll walk through them one by one, just through the month. But first, I just want to give you a really exciting update about my Patreon. So now each month over there, you will be getting subscriber-only content, but every 2 weeks. So now you will be getting 2 bonus episodes a month that are recorded with video. So you'll get that and you'll learn about how the new and full moons affect you more specifically, how to look for that, more details there. And also you'll get the moon visualizations as is. I'm not changing those. I know they're much loved. So essentially you're getting 2 moon circles every month. If you ever took those with me, you're getting 2 of those for a fraction of the cost. And yeah, so I'm super excited to share that with you and make it more accessible and to help you really work with this energy again and help you to have those check-in points and make a moon ritual out of that. So yeah, that's what you're getting over there. I also have another surprise bonus for you, but I will let that be a surprise. So you can check that out if you are a member, or if you're interested in joining, would of course love to have you be a part of that. And you can check out the link below in the show notes or go to MaxineLuthia.com and I'll put the link at the top. Or you can just go to the Patreon app and look up your spiritual astrologer and it will be there for you. Okay, so let's now get into today's episode, the astrology of November 2023. So what are the major transits this month? What do you need to know about the astrology of November? And really, how are you being guided? How can you use this with more intention going into the month ahead? Okay, so first off, I'm just going to list off the transits. If you do want to pause here to mark them on your calendar or come back to this later when you can, it'll just all be in one spot for you. So, and then I'll dive into them one by one. So first up, we're kind of backtracking into October here, but we have Scorpio season, which began on October 23rd. And carries us through most of the month until November 22nd. Then Mars also back on October 12th moved into Scorpio, so to note that. And then October 28th, that was the Taurus lunar eclipse. Super significant. We're still feeling this as you'll see moving into November. And then November 4th, that is when Saturn finally stations direct in Pisces. And November 8th, Venus, the planet of love, enters Libra, her home sign. November 13th, we have our new moon for the month in Scorpio. November 22nd, Sagittarius season begins. November 24th, Mars moves into adventurous Sagittarius. There we go. And then finally, November 27th, we have our full moon for the month in Gemini. Okay, so now let's get into those transits one by one. And I do want to say that also these the dates, just keep in mind, they may vary, give or take a day based on your time zone. So keep that in mind too. Okay, so first off, we're starting the month of November with Scorpio season in full swing. And I say that because not only did that begin on October 23rd and it lasts all the way till November 22nd, but we also have Mars overlapping transits at this time. So we have Mars still in Scorpio from October 12th. It has been there, and it's in its home sign there. Mars is the ancient ruler of Scorpio. So when we have Scorpio season and Mars there, it really gives you a double dose of this energy. It amplifies the desire for depth, for intensity, for transformation at some level, diving into topics that may have felt a bit taboo or off limits, looking at what your shadows are, what you've been hiding from, or what you haven't had the time to process. A lot of healing work can come about during this season too. So yeah, really diving into the depths of your own psyche, your own subconscious, but even your relationships, and craving deeper connection and intimacy is another big theme at this time. And on the flip side of that is, it can be quite a heavy energy. So sometimes you might feel heavier emotions at this time. You might feel it allows you to brood on the past, sometimes a bit too much if you aren't careful. And there is a need to make sure that you are not engaging in power struggles at this time. So keeping that in mind too, going into November. And it can also kind of point to where something has yet to be healed if conflict does come up. So things to keep in mind this month, but the positive way of working with this transit is really to allow yourself time to check in with yourself, to pause, to reflect, to process and integrate everything that's come up, especially in the past month of October, because we're closing off a chapter. We had that Taurus lunar eclipse on the 28th of October, and that was the final eclipse of this cycle, at least, of Taurus Scorpio eclipses. And so this energy of Scorpio season really allows you to honestly look at what changes have come up, what aha moments, what realizations you may have had, any internal shifts, and to take the time you need to find, okay, what do I do going forward with this? How do I move forward with these realizations, with these changes? So taking time to go within and reflect, that's how you'll make the most of this energy. That's how you'll feel the transformation. And when you do that, it can feel so freeing. So rather than that just staying stuck in that energy, when you're able to face your shadows during Scorpio season, that's where it becomes a season that feels exceptionally helpful and you'll actually look forward to it. That's not to say it doesn't come with emotions. Often a lot is coming up to be cleared, but you can start to see the purpose in every season, right? And we'll get to that with Sagittarius season at the end of the month. Okay, so that's what we're starting off the month with. And November 4th, we have Saturn finally stationing direct. So Saturn is often referred to as the Lord of Karma, and there's a lot to be said here, but essentially it has been retrograde since June. And this is really important. If you are multitasking listening to this and you have planets in Pisces, especially if your sun is there, your moon, your rising, even your Saturn is there. This is your Saturn return. Super important to pay attention to this because Saturn stationing direct on November 4th at 0 degrees and 30 minutes of Pisces, right at the starting line of Pisces. That is so significant. That is allowing you to feel you can finally get into a better routine again. You can get back on track. It is about discipline. So that energy is available for all of us, but if you've had planets in especially early degrees of Pisces, you may have really noticed it's been a struggle the past few months to feel on top of things. You may have felt like The image I'm getting is you have knit this big blanket and it starts to unravel. And that has been the past few months. And it's allowing yourself to process that a lot has been crumbling in a way. A lot of structures that you thought were certain, or beliefs or relationships or feelings or, work or whatever it is. And it's now allowing yourself to take a step back and see, okay, how do we move forward? You've been in it and you've done a lot of reflection about that the past few months. And now it's about getting back on track. Now, hopefully you are more focused on what truly matters to you. You know what needs your attention. You're able to prioritize better and really be more efficient. There's this desire to not waste energy or sweat the small stuff, and really think more long-term about your goals. Get more serious about some area of your life. So wanting structure again, wanting routine, and being more serious about that, more disciplined. So hopefully putting all that you've learned, though, the past few months into practice and crafting your ideal 3D reality, and being more practical about what steps do I need to take now every day to get there. So again, keeping that in mind, Saturn moved into Pisces back in March, and then it retrograded in June, and now it's moving forward again. So really an important transit to pay attention to. And again, if you want to start to set your vision for the future, this, along with the new moon, which I'll talk about, is really supportive of that. Okay, and next up we have November 8th. Venus, the planet of love, of beauty, of harmony, is entering Libra, its home sign. And so what does that mean? Basically, when a planet is in its home sign, as I mentioned with Mars in Scorpio, it amplifies, it brings ease to all that sign represents. So it expresses itself more freely through you. So you might notice at this time that this transit kind of serves to really soften all of this kind of harsher energy we're having at this time, or more intense energy. It may really remind you of how important it is to be more gentle with yourself. I'm going to repeat that because that is so important. Allowing yourself to be more gentle with yourself. With Venus moving into Libra, it asks you to soften. And that's not only a welcome transit at that time, but necessary. It's bringing in this divine feminine energy. So more compassion, more balance, more enjoyment of life, more compromise in relationships. It can kind of soften things, help things go a bit more smoothly, or recognizing what feels unfair or out of balance, what needs more give and take. So a big focus on that in relationships this month is just, it's a big focus especially. All right, and then November 13th, we have the new moon for the month in the sign of Scorpio at 20 degrees, 43 minutes. So when it comes to this new moon, expect the unexpected. Really, with this one, it's going to be opposing Uranus and conjunct Mars. There's a lot going on here, and I'll talk more about this over on Patreon. If you are interested, you can get that moon circle there. But when we're looking at the new moon in Scorpio, it asks you to reflect on what has been coming up for you truly from back in October. What is it that you've been stewing on, and what do you need to take action on now? What is your plan of action? What is that new goal, new intention, fresh start? And it really requires you to take back your power in some way. So expect the unexpected, but stand in who you are. So be true to yourself, challenge yourself, but don't forget to be a bit spontaneous. Don't forget to allow yourself that balance that we've been talking about here. And also, there might be a sense at this time that you might feel a bit intense and you might feel a bit impatient or impulsive. So avoid being too confrontational or too impatient at this time, or aggressive even. It's so important that you strike that balance, again, between what is it you want and how can you make sure to involve and include the people who you love, the people who need to know, and making sure that there is that give and take there and consideration. And also with this, I would say it's just, one more thing I'll mention is it is so much about transformation. You might feel a lot of pressure at this time to get on course to your destiny. So November 22nd, next, we have Sagittarius season. That's when it starts. And collectively speaking, and I mean this because collectively everyone is feeling this energy in some way, shape, or form. All of this depends on your unique birth chart, exactly how you'll feel it. But collectively, Sagittarius season feels a lot lighter, coming out of the more serious and brooding Scorpio season. Really, you're in the depths there, and then Sagittarius season brings you to the surface and asks you to gain perspective, to not take things so seriously, to be a bit more lighthearted and optimistic. And this is not to bash on Scorpio energy. I actually have my moon in Scorpio, my stellium. I love Scorpio energy. It brings such a richness to life, and there's a season for everything. Scorpio season, you need a chance to sit with those feelings, to reflect, to really make sure you know where you are asserting yourself, how you are in control of your reality and your healing, and you're taking ownership of that. But then moving into Sagittarius season, it really asks you to zoom out and get perspective, actually distance yourself from what you've been really perhaps even obsessing over or thinking over and over about or working on, and take a break, take a pause, allow yourself to see from a totally different perspective, see from think in new ways, allow yourself to even to distract yourself. Perhaps if something has really been weighing heavy on you, you might notice that going into Sagittarius season, which is November 22nd through December 22nd, there's a need to kind of get out of your situation and just breathe for a little bit. It can get quite intense again with this double dose of Scorpio energy. And also with Sagittarius season, being open to new experiences, new opportunities. We saw this a bit with the new moon in Scorpio. It already hinted toward needing to be a bit more spontaneous and flow with things. That is coming up here as well. And November 24th, we actually have Mars shifting into Sagittarius and meeting up there too. So wanting more adventure, wanting to trust things will work out, and really allowing yourself to act with more independence, wanting more autonomy, doing things on your own, and doing things just for fun, for the enjoyment of it, seeking truth, wanting to learn more in depth. That is a huge one. And again, Mars is here until January 4th. So wanting to even explore your spirituality, there may be a sense that there's more you want to uncover, and you want to really see things in a new perspective. So that's a big part of it. And also perhaps to take a leap of faith in some way, to kind of move forward on some idea or goal or project without fully knowing exactly what step you have to take and trusting that process. And just to note too that actually around this time, November 23rd and then the 25th, we have squares to Saturn. The Sun is squaring Saturn on the 23rd, and then Mars squares Saturn on the 25th. So I bring that up because it really feeds into the full moon in Gemini and what frustrations are coming up then. But keep in mind that at the end of the month, it's so important to keep a positive mindset and to understand that roadblocks are not permanent. Okay? Your mantra for the month, roadblocks are not permanent. And don't allow frustration to bubble over, especially in relationships. Okay, and then November 27th, we have our full moon for the month in the sign of Gemini, early degrees at 4 degrees, 51 minutes. So this full moon in Gemini is really closing the month on this note of wanting to see things more objectively, wanting to really get perspective. We already saw this with that Sagittarius energy coming in, but rising above your emotions, rising above these heavier feelings and allowing yourself to see the bigger picture, connect the dots, see the patterns. What I'm seeing is you're finding how all these puzzle pieces that felt like totally unrelated from different puzzle boxes are now coming together and it's making sense and you're seeing the picture form. That is what is possible for you at this full moon in Gemini. So November 27th, taking time around that to tune in, to make sure that you are, again, allowing those messages to flow to you, and setting aside that time so that way you do have that insight and you're not missing that call. So that clarity. And also with the full moon in Gemini, paying attention to your thoughts, where your thoughts wandering at this time, making sure that you're grounding yourself so you don't get overly anxious, which I notice can be something that happens for people at this time, myself included. And also paying attention to what comes up in conversation with others. What are you interested in? What do you want to learn more about? All of those might be signs from the universe of nudging you towards where you need to go next. And I mean, there's so much more I want to share about this full moon and all of this. So if you do join my Patreon, or if you are a member, you'll get more then. But really just being mindful at this time that you may feel this sense of frustration or impatience, there may be delays, there may be some harsh reality in some way, like feeling a bit disappointed, but there's a need to stay the course. There's a need to stay disciplined, stay committed. Of course, there's room for letting go of something, of pivoting, readjusting, but it's really allowing yourself to not settle and to know what it is you want, that you're worthy of that. Okay, so I will leave it at that, but that's all I have for you for today's episode on the astrology of November. I hope that was helpful for you in really going into the month, knowing the astrology around the corner, knowing those transits and how you can work with them to co-create and to move into the month with intention. So if this episode was helpful for you, I would love to hear. You can reach out to me over on Instagram or write me a 5-star review. I would be so grateful if you did. And of course, if you are interested in learning more with me, you can check out the show notes for that. There's a ton of different ways you can. Of course, I have my Patreon if you're interested in getting those monthly moon circles. I'm so excited about that, and I'll share more about that surprise, the bonus for this month and all of that over there if you're interested. I also have, of course, Spiritual Astrology School if you really want to dive deep into everything, and yeah, lots of other even free resources you can check out. So I'll link that in my show notes. You can go to MaxineLuthia.com or just reach out to me over on Instagram and I'll point you in the right direction. Or if you don't know where to start, let me know where you're at in your astrology journey, and I'd be more than happy to help you out there. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to the end, for learning astrology with me. I'm so grateful for you, and hope you have a beautiful, beautiful November. Until next time, bye!